Hello, and welcome to the Superversive Sunday Livestream. I'm Ben Wheeler, and I'm joined with April Freeman and El Jaji Lamplighter. And we're going to talk about Libertycon, a place I've never been, but I'm looking forward to next year.
Woot.
Yeah. That's also because I saw the dumpster fire that was everyone buying up con
It wasn't
tickets.
a dumpster fire. That's not a dumpster fire. Dumpster fires sound like bad. That was just an explosion of awesome, and like minds couldn't even comprehend what happened with that.
Right.
Generally wonderful, except for us, because I was upstairs and I saw that they were going, so I came down, I went to the computer. There were 9 tickets left. I put in for 4. I started filling out the pay. You have to write down the age and name, you know what I mean? And then I hit to pay, and it said your shopping cart is empty. They had sold them out from under me. So we're not going next year.
But you'll be joining us with Dragon.
You might get you. I feel like a lot of people jumped on because they saw it was going out so fast. But as life happens, spots open up.
But you know, it's a lot of fun, and I think that's why people really want to go back. And when you look at who was saying, because they started saying, well, did somebody buy a whole bunch of tickets? No, it's a lot of people bought for their family. You know, they're bringing their kids and stuff, which I think is great for a con. You know.
Yeah, my theory. Yeah, it was interesting walking around because of course most of the demographic are like middle-aged, just people chilling around. But there's a couple group of like the young kids, especially the volunteers. But I have a theory. As who was it that did the opening ceremony? Chuck
Gannon.
Oh my gosh, his opening ceremony for this Libertycon 31 was great. I feel like most of the references went over my head, but I think it's from The Godfather. I think, like in general.
Yeah. He was mafia jokes about the family that runs the con.
Yeah,
really
I saw someone when they happened upon the dancing cow in the hallway think that the portal he was talking about might actually be true.
So he had people raise their hands, and he said, are you military, ex-military? He had a couple of other things, and one of them was science fiction writer, but they were all like science related, except for the science fiction writer, And by the time he was or shoot a gun, by the time he was done with his list, and it was basically what I just said, but maybe 1 or 2 more things. Almost every hand was up, and some people had 2 hands up because he said if you're more than 1, put it up.
And then we don't have multiple hands, so I feel like most people would have 5 up.
But then he said that he suspected that the reason that LibertyCon happens is that there's actually a portal opening, and that we have here the talents you need to confront and shut and force out the aliens every year when they come.
Because there's the summer solstice happens, but with LibertyCon being earlier next year, who knows what will happen.
That's true. Maybe the portal moved, and that's why they had to move it to earlier.
Maybe.
But
the stars changed.
The stars are not in position.
Everybody was charmed because, of course, everybody there was the kind of person who would like to be involved in, saving the world and stopping a portal. So everybody really cheered. I thought that was brilliant on his part.
I have a theory of why the tickets sold out so fast. My theory is that, one, it happened 2 days after the con ended, so it's on everyone's mind. Like Facebook, everyone was just talking about how awesome it was. Yeah. Then it was also 4th of July, so most people had the day off, and so we're buying their tickets. And because everyone's got the day off thinking about it, buying tickets, the tickets are going fast. Everyone else is saying the tickets are going fast, so everyone piles on and buys tickets. And I think the official time was 5 hours and 53 minutes.
Something like that. Yeah.
I was sitting there all morning because I got on right when it opened, just go ahead and grab my tickets. And then I was just watching it going and going. I was actually I was going to grab my fiance. I was waiting because my fiance was saying he was going to maybe grab a ticket for his friend, and so I was just going to let him buy his ticket and the other guy's ticket. But he was sleeping, and I kept seeing the tickets go by. I'm like, I'm just going to grab his ticket because I'm like, I
What was
can't sit
so
here and
weird-
watch it the entire time.
What was so weird for us is, okay, we got our tickets towards the end last time. When
Yeah,
they were
it
getting
usually doesn't
close.
sell out till
and it
March.
was January or February. we
Yeah,
got ours.
that's about when I
And
did it.
we
Usually it doesn't
never-
sell out till March.
We never buy things ahead of time because we don't know what we're doing. We don't have the money and things like that. But I figured out we probably would be available and could bring both boys. And I decided to go get tickets, which is completely out of character because it meant I was using money that was supposed to go to pay a bill, So that was so fun. And John said, "Well, sit and pray before you do it." So I sat and prayed, and then I went to do it. And that's why it was so strange. After, I got the money together and I had this nice calm feeling to go forward. And then the tickets were in the shopping cart. And I was like, what? It was so strange that I went down at all, and so it just was so odd to be the person that they ran out on.
Yeah.
Everyone else, I think either there were tickets there or there weren't tickets there, but as far as I know, we're the only people the tickets actually disappeared from. So
Yeah. It was quite interesting.
It's a fun convention, and it's a nice blend of kind of friendly family anime, a nice I live in Northern Virginia, and some fans came into town and asked to take us to lunch yesterday, and the first words out, it was really sweet. They were great. In fact, the young man reminded me a lot of Jubal. I was thinking he and Jubal. His beard was longer, but other than that, they even looked a little bit like. Jubal is April's brother. So I. The first words out of their mouth was how crazy the traffic is up here. And that's what everybody who visits says. So we were in the city of Chattanooga for Libertycon, and I would go out on Friday night, and there was a rally. So a whole section of the streets were closed off. And there's no traffic. I go out
Chattanooga
Saturday.
is amazing. Okay, can I just say, I just need to say, I live right between Atlanta and Chattanooga. I hate Atlanta. I hate driving through it. I never go in it. Marietta is okay. That's where Jubal's at. I can go there. I just can't stand Atlanta. When I go to Florida, I go around Atlanta. I can't stand it. Chattanooga's beautiful. It was so funny being there because I've gone to Chattanooga since I was little. There's the Discovery Museum, the aquarium. I was just up there yesterday. There's the walking bridge and the park and the carousel. It's a beautiful little area. And yeah, the traffic, though the interstates, because of they have that weird thing where some places don't have a merge lane. You got to stop and then jump into traffic. But for the most part, Chattanooga's just so nice. And it's just so funny being up there for something like this where so many people from over the country come just for the Marriott. I saw the Marriott yesterday and I waved at it I miss you. But it's just so funny because I've been up there so much. And it's just such a nice area. So it was so fun just to chill. Mom got some cake from the City Cafe Diner yesterday too.
I've been telling everybody. So part of the charm, in the previous time we went in 2015, I'd heard about this City Diner. And I'm not a big diner fan, so I wasn't going to drive away from the con to go to a diner. I mean, what are they talking about? Well, I made such a mistake because we went to the diner this particular time. It was
right down the block from the Marriott too. And it's going to be right by them.
You go in 24 hours a day. The meals are the $8 to $12 range. They give you 2 to 3 times the amount of food you could eat. So it was my birthday, so we wanted to have cake, and April warns me, get only a piece or 2. And I'm like, well, there's 5 of us, so I get 4 pieces of cake. Just pieces of cake, not cakes. Right. The 5 of us could finish a single one of those pieces of cake.
They're huge and dense. It's insane.
And they were really good, So I think the diner was one of the real highlights of the whole experience.
Mm-hmm. I ended up having breakfast there. What was it? Okay, so I guess I'll start in with some of my Libertycon experiences. I went Thursday and Friday morning. I think I ended up hanging out with Dorothy and Peter Grant. I made friends with them, and they were going to. I just had a salad. I already had breakfast, but of course, what fan can't have a second breakfast going and hanging out with people? And ended up having breakfast with Larry, which was really fun.
Larry Cricket, for those who are listening.
Yeah. So we went there. So portion sizes. So I go there for breakfast, and I was like, well, I already had breakfast, so this is my second breakfast, but I didn't want to pass up a chance to hang out. And it's really full. also, it was closed Thursday night because I was going to meet people for dinner there, and they had been doing renovations, and they weren't going to open till the next day, which I feel sorry for all the people working there because it was just like a flood, like constant flood. It was always full, people in the waiting room. But for breakfast Friday, we finally got there. I was like, okay, I'll just get a side. I'll just get a side of tater tots, $4, a little side of tater tots, so I can eat with everyone. It'll be good. I get this plate. It is huge. It's like 5 servings of tater tots on this one plate. And I'm like, what are they thinking? I'm like, do they see that I'm just getting an order of tater tots? And like, it was still just the $4 and they just loaded it up. Like everyone, like I had those tater tots forever. I had them when I got home after the weekend. It was a lot. They're really good fresh, but like that was a lot of tater tots.
Yep.
Man.
So the city, I mean, I realize it has nothing to do with science fiction, but it's part of the charm. I think part of the reason Libertycon is so popular is it's just charming. You get to kind of hang around with people. I thought it was a little tiny bit less charming this time than before, because when it was in the choo-choo, there was a large room for the con suite, and they served all sorts of really nice food there.
Mm-hmm. So the con suite this time, they had to kind of combine a few rooms, and there wasn't any good spot because the Marriott was very restrictive of where food could be at when. Next year it's going to be at the Reed House, so they hopefully work out a better area for having food and everyone.
And I think that's one of the reasons, because what would happen when they had this big con suite was everyone came in. So you'd be sitting there. Anne McCaffrey's son made us crepes for breakfast one morning. You'd be sitting there with just all the fans and the professionals all together, which was great. This time, as April said, it was the kind of room suites they often do, but they were small. They weren't even as large as normal party room suites at a that you normally would have as a con suite at a con. So you'd go in, and I did have a couple nice conversations with people in the con suite, but it was often so crushed. They kind of just went out again, And so that was one of the reasons I thought they were considering moving. Another reason was that you weren't allowed to have any food of any kind in the Marriott was attached to the convention center. The convention center was really big and nice, but you weren't even allowed to have like a coffee in there. And the dealers, that how are they going to eat while they're trying to be there all day? Usually they bring food in and things like that. And if people got caught with food, the convention got fined. And not everybody heard this because people came in at different times. So I think they're looking.
It was a hard situation. It was a rush for the Libertycon people for this past one because they had to change hotels kind of suddenly.
Because the other hotel has turned a lot of its rooms into apartments. Mm-hmm. And just isn't really the right setup anymore, which is a shame because it was a really neat place.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to have to go soon. So I'll say my things and talk about the council. First, for anyone listening that doesn't understand why Libertycon's so small, are you guys heading out? Oh, okay. Sorry. It's only 750 people. And that's for legal reasons because they're a nonprofit, and so they would have to submit this whole form to get a higher portion of people to come for all the different stuff. So they can't have it above 750, and everyone has to buy a ticket. So for anyone wondering, because there's a lot of talk, especially with all the tickets selling out, of just like raise the cap thing, but that's not really an option right now. It would. Technically, they might be able to, but it would take a lot of money and lawyers. And it's nice having a small convention, but there's also been talk, other people on Facebook saying they should open up other Libertycons like Libertycon West or different places like that.
Or even have a Relaxicon at another hotel where fans could interact without actually being part of it, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah, it is. And the other great thing about Libertycon is because it's a small con, and I think the ratio this year was 3-to-1. So for every 3 people, one of them was a
professional.
Or for every 3 fans, there was 1 professional, something like that. So it was a lot of fun. You just get to hang around. I had a lot of fun being the very talkative person that I am, just making a lot of friends, fans, connections. I had a lot of fun.
Particularly dancing cat.
Yes. I had a lot of fun too, getting funny looks and funny comments when I would hang out in the room parties and people would realize I was only 20. Because of course I wouldn't have any alcohol or anything. I dance in a cow suit when I'm sober, so I don't know what next year's gonna look like. Um, okay, yeah, the cow suit. I'll start with that. So I don't know when it happened. It was like a week or so before Libertycon. I had the great idea that for every book I sold, I would dance and I would wear my cow onesie. And so I think I think I posted a few things about it on Facebook, like some polls of should I dance in a cow onesie? Yes or definitely yes. No, it was yes, and is that even a question?
I voted.
Most people know me, and so they said, is that even a question? Even like when I was selling stuff and people would buy it, I'll be like, okay, you want me to dance? And they're like, no, it's okay. I'm like, no, I want to dance. You want to watch me dance? I like dancing. I'm gonna dance now. But yeah,
it's delightful. Sometimes the cow did ballet. Sometimes she did something slightly more modern.
Yeah, some sort of hip hop jazz combination thing. I think, what was it? We had 3 author alleys. That's when I did it. We had one at like 10 p.m. that Friday night, 2 p.m., which is unfortunately when a lot of people were in like the Bain Road showed. But then I got to show off my moves to like Larry Curry and Dan Hoyt later at like 10 on Saturday. And what surprised me was that first night, me and Jaji were sitting there for a while because no one, after like 10 and 11, no one else comes to like do a booth. So we just sat there for a while. And like Forbidden Thoughts sold out that night, which really surprised me. The Planetary wasn't far behind. We had a spattering of other ones. So this being our first time selling Superversive books at a place, it was a nice kind of gauging what sells quickly.
I'll say really quick there that I saw the same thing that Wordfire says, which is the guys who are at the con, the guys that people could interact personally, their stuff sold.
Yeah.
So Lou's book sold, the Planetary books we had a panel about sold, the stuff that people can interact with somebody about and get a signature on sold first.
Yeah, definitely. So I danced in the cow suit. I also had a horse head mask that it was more creepy than anything else, so no one really wanted me to wear it. That's the one you got up, don't you? On the picture, me and the cow onesie and stuff.
Yeah,
that was great.
Not to use.
I had just the creepy thing. I should have had it. I put it on backwards so it's pointing away.
Yeah, the
cow suit's adorable.
But the cow suit is great. My daughter
it was a great, So by 2:00 the next day, because I had the cow suit when I was going around the parties too, so everyone knew about the cow suit by the next day. And 2:00 came. I guess there's someone that goes around the con and hands out little medals for different stuff. And he came and gave me one for most humorous female for my cow dancing, because at that point, everyone knew the cow. Everyone loved the cow. I talked about it all the time. It was fantastic. So many videos. I need to do a channel of just like April, the dancing girl, the official dancing girl, the Superversives or something, because I have so many dance videos now. I have all the ones like the victory dances I've done and now the cow dances. Just start all the dancing. That's what I do. It's great. So that was probably one of the highlights, was the cow suit. It was pretty hot in there, but I mean, I'm used to being hot. And it was a lot of really entertaining, fun to interact with people, and it was great. Let's see. So the panel for the Planetary panel was pretty fun. We actually had a pretty good turnout. I'd heard, I forget which one, but there was a couple other panels for Release Party or other publishers that only had like a few people come. I think we had somewhere between like, what was it, maybe 10 or 15? Do you think that's about right, Jaji?
Sorry, 10 or 15 what? I got distracted
like,
for a second.
10 or 15 people in the panel for the Planetary stuff?
Yes. It was somewhere, around that, and probably 1 or 2 other people could have joined. And it was really fun, and everybody got to talk about their stories. And
and I got to play moderator. The rights were still on their way there, and we actually had a couple other people that came in late. Poor Louis was still on Central Time, and so he thought it was 3:30 instead of 4:30. But we have so many people on the panel talking that by the time he got here, he probably would have just been sitting in there waiting for his turn anyway.
I mean, he didn't miss out because he did get to talk, But he showed up late. He said, I was here waiting for my 4 o'clock panel, but I had my watch on Mountain
Eastern time. Yeah.
so he showed up late. But
so we kind of had people
got a chance to present.
Yeah, I got to sing. I got everyone to sing "Happy Birthday" to Jaji when she came in because they were running
really cool.
maybe 10 minutes late, and
we arrived.
Friday was her birthday.
We had been driving since Thursday night. We stayed over. We got up and we ran into traffic. So we were supposed to get there 2, and we got there a little after our 4 o'clock panel.
Yeah,
and I walked in and they all sang "Happy Birthday," which I just thought it was like having a surprise birthday party. It was really cool. I was delighted.
And I made a Lucky scarf, the Lucky from the Rachel Griffin series, and I'd been working on it during the con. And I'd just gotten it done before the panel. So when Jaji came in, I wrapped the Lucky around her. She used it. I'm during the rights reading. I made him float around. Jaji looked fabulous all weekend because she had the scarf and then she had to wear sunglasses because one of her eyes was irritated. So she had these flowery sunglasses that she borrowed from me and this sparkly red and gold scarf thing. So she just looked like some sort of glamorous lady walking around all weekend.
It was so funny because here I was in these glamorous sunglasses and people would make comments about, me being all glamorous. And then I'd take them off and I had poison ivy and my eyes were swelled up and I looked like Odo. So they would go, ah!
You got to tell the story about the other time years ago. You got
once before, and the other time I had to go to a convention too. But it happened once before, and it went on for weeks. This time I'm looking almost entirely better now again.
Yay!
And one day I went up to John. I'm like, everybody I talked to is so freaked out, except the kids. The kids were 2 and 4 or 5 or something. I said they don't seem bothered at all. Why not? And John said they look at you with the eyes of love. And I look at you with the eyes of a science fiction writer, and you look like Odo, and I think it's cool.
Oh, love. Such goals.
In addition to everything else, I had this going on, but thanks to April's glasses, I looked glamorous and that I actually looked like a hideous monster. So I had a really good time, and I didn't think about it too much or feel too self-conscious, which is very different than the last time when I went to a con.
Yeah.
And I had the same problem, and I felt really, really self-conscious about it. So,
yeah. And everyone's really laid back at Libertycon.
Yeah, everybody was really friendly. And one thing I thought was neat is, it's kind of known as being, because it's a lot of Bane fans come. So it's kind of known as being a bit of a conservative con, but it really isn't. There were a number of very liberal people there, including a friend of mine who's really liberal.
There was a lady.
As far as I could tell, it really wasn't political. Nobody ever made anything of it. They just
there's one interaction. I know there was a couple interactions. Of course, I met people that are probably more either just more left in some of their views or just more left in general. But we talk about books and we have fun. I was one guy came up to the table when we were doing the author rally. I was telling him the different books. I pointed at the Trump book and he's just like, no, nothing with Trump, and moves on. You don't have to make a whole big deal about, oh my gosh, you have some funny collection of stories about MAGA 2020. It's just that's not my style. I'll find something else, which is the great thing about LibertyCon. We can just all enjoy books, no matter it's probably more the majority is conservative, since there's the traditional Thursday or Friday morning shooting range trip, but it's still just we get to talk about stories, some things we like, have funny. There was one panel where they had random objects they brought in, and the people on the panel were studying them as if they were alien artifacts that they're trying to figure out what they were for. That one was funny.
It was funny. But to me, it was like the way cons were before 2014 or so, which was, it used to be, the world was the world, and science fiction, fantasy fans were a small part of it, and we would get together at a convention, we'd all have a good time. And you'd feel like you were at home. You'd feel like you were with people you could relax with and talk about the things you love to talk about. And back then, if somebody had a conservative or libertarian themed thing, somebody would just either look at it, hey, I like this, or walk on and not care about it, because people's identity were not as much tied with their politics, and somebody was claiming that LibertyCon was a political con because it wasn't SJW. And I'm like, you can't claim something is political just because it's not political. If they're just doing what they had done for 31 years and they didn't change it, At what point did it suddenly become a political statement when the year before it was just Libertycon, you know? So I
Yeah.
don't think it is political. I think it's just they keep it small so they have a fun, intimate feeling. And a lot of the people there are people who don't care for, you know, they don't push a political agenda, but there is a bit of a, you know, like gun culture. But I know gun culture people who are not conservative. So
There was someone that I
is,
think she had a shirt, and she later friended me on Facebook, and I saw what her shirt was. It was like I forget what the word said, but it had like a flaming sword and like a rainbow around it, and it was basically an LGBTQ, you know, that like that kind of thing for guns. It was like
yeah.
the LGBTQ people for guns was kind of the shirt that was promoting.
Which
so
is,
like you that doesn't, like, it would make an SJW's mind blow because it's not in the proper box, but that's LibertyCon.
right.
Like
That's what you used to get all the time. Can you hear me?
It cut off for a second. You may want to say it again.
Yeah, sorry, I fixed it. All I was saying is you used to get that all the time at cons. Just people who were doing their own thing and were mixed the way however they want to mix things. And nobody gave them a hard time about it. And one of the things that's been so upsetting to me about, you know, oh, we have to stop really nice guys like Ringo and Larry from going to cons is
Larry is a teddy bear. He is a literal teddy bear. It's adorable.
Those two guys are really sweet. But I've been to cons.
We swapped cow stories at one point. I got to tell him about my cows, and he told me about his cows. It was great.
For the cow guy. But in general, I've been to cons in the middle of huge dust-ups about things, and people almost always are just really nice to each other at the cons. So, you know, this idea that's because you are annoyed at someone on Facebook, you can't go to a con with them, I just don't think we should be encouraging that, you know? If somebody behaves badly at a con, I can see saying, look, I don't want this guy, you know, to come back to our con because he did this horrible thing at a con. But, you know, one of the guys there told me that he had been at a Worldcon when the staff walked up to a well-dressed gentleman and told him, I'm sorry, we don't want your kind here. You need to leave. And the guy was John Norman, who, yes, he wrote stories where girls got treated like slaves, but they were best-selling books throughout almost my whole life. He was whenever he put out a book, it was a bestseller. And I had met him
series, right?
The Gore series, right?
Yeah.
And I had met him at cons. He was very, very much a gentleman. He often went with his wife. You know what I mean? He didn't like bother anybody. And I was just outraged that they would take this guy. Okay, maybe I'm not, you know, a fan of what he writes, but they would
obviously a lot of people are.
Right, who had been in our field and who had been a big member of the field for so many years, and they would be rude to him rather than just, I mean, how much longer is he going to be able to go to cons? He's an old man, you know?
Yeah.
So if they actually hold John Con, there was a joke about John Con. They're going to hold John Con. It's going to be, you know, John De La Rose, John Wright, John Ringo, all the Johns. And I thought, you know, they should invite John Norman too if they do John Con. You know, honor the guy for, okay, you know, just having been a big part of the field.
Sorry. I would go to John Con. I'd go to John. I would go to John Con.
And John Con is a great idea. And I mentioned there's also John Holmes and John Van Stuyman. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of writers named John. John Con could be a really happening place. And then maybe they could have a secondary spot for Daves because there's a lot of Daves.
There's a lot of Jasons. There are a lot of Jasons too.
There are a lot of Jasons, and you know, I mean, we could just keep this up as a thing where every guy gets his own name, or we could just do John
April Con, or a month con, where everyone's named after a month.
I don't know. I hope
September, November, May. Hey, I know a May.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few. Yeah, we could do that, something like that too. But John Con is just a funny idea.
That does make it sounds nice too. Okay, I should probably finish up with whatever I need to say and get off. Yeah. Let's see. Help me remember if there's anything I'm forgetting. Let's see. The Kelsey was great. I got to do a reading. right before the rites. That was fun. I think everyone was at the banquet, so not many people came. But I filmed it, put it
There was
on
some big
Facebook.
event going on, and I noticed just the readings. Readings are kind of weird. Some years you get like at RavenCon, I got a large group, which was really weird.
Yeah, the reading room was also kind of off. Yeah, it was kind of also off in this other place next to the game room, like on the third floor.
If I were running a con, there's one or two things I would organize differently than they usually are.
Yeah, and then
did put the table up.
Yeah, I also did an interpretive dance for John Dell's reading of the Snake poem. That's on his Twitter, and I think I finally saw it. It's hilarious. I'm very amused at myself sometimes.
We definitely need to put all your stuff together on one.
I really do. Maybe after my Kentucky trip in like a month or two. I've got the videos together. I've got like a week and a half. Then I got to go to Florida. Then I got to go to Kentucky. Got to come back. I need to finish the registry. I need to finish the last 2 stories. You know, that life in general. The dances will come eventually. Let's see. It was just a fun time. I really didn't want to leave. I hung out there like Sunday evening, went out and had the Brazilian barbecue. I found some new friends that were really fun to talk to. And then like it was like 9 o'clock, and I'm like, I don't want to leave, but I probably should. So then I drove home.
And I should say specifically that the first time ever Superversive Press selling books was a huge success in a great part.
We sold over half of what we brought. Yeah. Like we brought about like 42, and I think we sold about 26 in total. And I feel a large part of that's the planetary because, of course, it's a series, and so some people buy it individually, and then there's a couple other people that bought the whole set that we had. And then
I should say that 26 does not even include. I sold some of my books, and John sold some of his books.
Oh yeah, and we probably got at least some sales online,
which are also Superversive books. Yeah, and we got some online sales because we did an e-sale during the same period.
Yeah, and we had what was really great. We had papers printed out. Yeah, the flyers were really great because we had flyers printed out with all the different books, like a page for the new releases, page for the older ones, and little cue codes, and a little description of each book. So we just hand those out to people so they can be walking around or have those or find it later and look at it and pick it up on the sale. We also had a great scavenger hunt for MAGA 2020 where you had a piece of paper and you had to run around and get signatures from all the people that were attending Libertycon that were also in the book. And who was it? It was Patty. I forget how to say her last name.
Her last name, but she was
so happy. It was adorable. I was packing up.
Really, a couple people really worked at it, but she worked really hard, and it was one person she had to chase down.
It was Christine Chase. She had to chase down Chase.
Chase down Chase.
Yeah, and we were packing up. I think we were lingering a little bit. I just finished packing up all the books in the suitcase to put them up until the last table we had. And she came up and she was like, I got it. I did a little live stream of that too. I had to got her to tell us about it while I dug through the suitcase trying to find another of the MAGA books. It was great. I'm glad she enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Anyway, so as a first kind of official Superversive Press experience at a con, it was great, and we're talking about next year, possibly. I have no idea if I'm going to be there next year, but whoever gets there,
I will.
And there are already some Superversive authors who are signed up. Possibly.
Yeah, Ben, you're going to be there, right?
I like the idea that I push an old woman out of the way to get my ticket.
We next year there's some talk about doing even a CLFA / Superversive track or a bunch of panels, or trying to get them to do more related to, because there were, and the other thing is there were a lot of CLFA, the Conservative Libertarian Fiction Alliance. There were a lot of authors from that there, and people who are not authors who are members is also. And it was hard to find each other because we like, oh my gosh, that's the name, I recognize from Facebook, but occasionally people had nicknames and we didn't realize who each other were. So there's a talk for next year, perhaps getting a little like a ribbon, of a certain color so everybody can recognize each other. And also maybe having like a room or a meeting place so people can get together and talk. But it would be really fun to have a bunch of panels and things because, this is a large group and a group of which many people go to LibertyCon. So, it would be neat to represent it more and do more with it. And I hope that happens.
I'd like to participate in that. That sounds like a great time.
That would be a really good idea, I think.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So, sorry. I was just checking something. So, the highlights, of course, meeting people, dancing in a one-piece cow onesie, selling books to people who love books. What were your favorite panels?
Well, you go ahead first, April, because I know you're.
No, she's muted. I'm sure that there's a.
Oh, she's probably going off on.
Could you keep it down, please? I
didn't get to see a lot of panels because, just the whole setup of what I was doing, I didn't get to see a lot of panels. But I got to be on a few panels. We mentioned the planetary one, and the amusing opening ceremonies. John and I were not on a lot of panels because we signed up at the last minute, which I think is funny because the last minute was like January or February, while for Dragon Con, which is like 80,000 people rather than 700, they haven't done the panels yet, and you get them like in August. So it's kind of funny that we weren't on many panels because were so ahead of things. They were entirely done last winter. But John and I had readings, and I got to be on a panel about fantastic books and where to find them, which is a website that Superversive hosts and a couple of authors and I run. And two of the three authors who run it were there, and a couple of other people. We got some newbies involved, who hopefully will come involved with the website. But it was fun because we were talking about magic schools and schooling, and how magic schools are done. And
you had you had the typical American schooling. One was from a British boarding school, and another was homeschooled.
Yeah, of the three of us who run, who actually run the thing, that we have someone who actually went to a horrible British boarding school. I went to public school in America, and we have a homeschooled kid. A person, she's not a kid anymore, but somebody who was homeschooled when she was a kid. And the other authors are Christopher G. Nuttall and Cedar Sanderson. And so that was fun. And we had a couple of other authors on the panel that were really great. And I heard quite a few good. I know the Bane Roadshow where they went over the Bane books was something people. I'm trying to think. There were a couple of the panels people talked about really liking.
I remember. I don't know if it was talked about by anyone else, but I went to the What's New in YA Science Fiction. Jason Corvoda was the moderator for that, and there's David Weber. I forget. There's one or two other people there. I talked to Jason later, and he said he was really nervous about doing that one because he'd never moderated a panel, but it was really great. They had a lot of interaction from the audience of what it means to write YA and science fiction, and do you write down to your audience? Do you just explain it? How do you have the kind of feel of or a YA feel and kind of writing without feeling like you're dumbing it down for a science fiction audience? And so it was a really good panel.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah, there's a number of panels I wished I could have gotten to, but between selling books,
it's weird. Well, okay, wait. There's weird because
places the whole time.
I feel like I could have done a little bit better job of getting places, because my first con was Dragon Con, and that is an experience in itself. Yeah. And it's hard to get places and get to panels. And Libertycon is so much smaller, and there's only 2 or 3 panels I want to go to at a time or something. But there's a couple points where I didn't quite didn't quite get to one when I could have, or kind of sat around or waited too long, so I missed a few I wanted to go to. And I think they're going to tweak the apps, because they had categories for each thing, but they didn't have an all option, which made it a little more confusing. But they're going to tweak that up. I think that was new this year. And
Yeah.
no, I did. There was one comment.
To work from I was trying to get to the. They gave me
Yeah.
just the sheet that had the name of the panel without who's on it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get.
Yeah, it didn't quite have everyone on
to
that
work,
one.
and I didn't have the app, so I
Yeah.
couldn't actually tell what the panels were about.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a few bugs, especially. I was there for part of the closing stuff, which was just it basically was like a Q&A, like suggestions or question and answer stuff. But one thing that happened that I kind of laughed to myself about was someone was saying how hard it was getting from one place to another around the convention and needing more time or needing things closer. And for someone that had gone to Dragon Con for the first con, I was like, it's so easy though. Here, it's like 2 minutes from everything instead of like blocks.
I'm actually looking forward to Dragon Con. We have a comment from Banner of the Blue Boar. The Masters of Military Sci-Fi was an impressive lineup. Ringo, Kratman, Weber, Drake, and Gannon. I assume that's Chuck Gannon.
Yeah, Chuck Gannon.
Yeah,
that is impressive.
Did anyone see, Jaji, did you see Tom? It was great to see him. He had scratched his cornea. I think it was on Saturday. It was irritating him. And so he had to get an eye patch. So he looked like a pirate, as if Tom wasn't scary enough. He got an eye patch.
I didn't see that, but I did stop and have lunch with him on the way home.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he actually got home before we did. So when we went through his town, we stopped and had, because we went to the convention the whole time. We didn't actually get together. There were 2 or 3 people like that who we wanted to see there, but it was kind of hard to find people if you didn't know where they were, and I didn't have the ability with my tablet to find them. So I missed a few people, and so we stopped to see him on the way back. But I'm trying to. There was another panel that everybody really wanted to go to. It was like a evening panel. What's had something to do with guns, I think. I wish I could remember what the name of it was. I remember how excited everybody was about it. I was going to mention it, but
I heard something about a Larry Correa, Tom Kratman, and a couple other combo panel about guns, and I'm like, It does sound very nice.
Oh, I know the other panel I went to that I really enjoyed. I went to the Monster Hunter anthology panel. And the Mad Scientist thing was really cool too. And they have this giant room full of, the big room. They have all the different scientists that attend, and they talk about real science. That was neat. We didn't stay very long, but it was really cool, and a lot of people seemed to really enjoy it. But there was a Monster Hunter anthology panel that had all Larry and Ringo and all the other authors, including my husband, who wrote Monster Hunter stories. And they each got to talk about how they found out about Monster Hunter, and like Sarah Hoyt was there, and I'm trying to think of who else was there. There's a bunch of good authors. Anyway, that panel was a lot of fun because they're just like Larry told the story about how he got published. I had not realized that he had received like over 107 rejections before he before he went and published on his own, and then now he's got this bestseller, And so the whole thing was full of funny stories and how they did things, and how Ringo had written this entire like 2 to 3 novels worth of Monster Hunter fan fiction before he
even like asked Tony or Larry.
Yeah, if he could write it, and now it's now it's coming out as a Ringo thing in his background, and of course Larry was just delighted, and so the whole thing was just really fun. And as I was sitting there, I came up with my idea for if I had to write a Monster Hunter story, because I thought, well, they all write about guns. I don't know anything about guns, and I thought about the time that Hawking Austin took me shooting. And I thought about all the things I'd learned about guns that you don't see from TV. And I thought, if I ever wrote a Monster Hunter story, I would write a secretary who knows nothing about guns dealing with having to shoot for the first time and being nothing like what it was like in books and movies.
That panel was really fun because at the end, right before it ended, Larry, being the teddy bear that he is, was like, "Hey, all you other authors on here, go ahead and promote your stuff." And they were like, "Let's start with John." And John's face was like deer in the headlights. And then he couldn't remember any of his stuff. So me and Jaji started calling stuff out to him. And then John's like, no hecklers. But then of course he keeps calling back to the audience every so often. Heckler, what was this one?
That's true. Yeah. At first he's objecting, and then after a while I was like, Heckler, what was the name of it? And I was calling out the answer to things.
Oh, you guys are such goals. It's so funny. So I got another funny story. I think I scared Ringo at one point. Or at least weirded him out. It was Friday morning. I'd got to have breakfast with people. I was talking to some people outside. I'd gone inside to get my badge and come back out. And Tom had just arrived, so I ran up and gave him a big hug, like, "Hey, Tom." And Ringo's standing there, and he just gives me this look, and he's like, "Who are you?"
Who is this?
All morning I've just been hanging around, just following around all the cool people, and they haven't kicked me out, so I keep hanging out with them. And then I go give Tom a hug because we know each other, and he just gives me a look. I gave a really silly answer that I'm not sure if I regret or not, because he just looks at me and I think he just asked something like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm April." And he's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, "That's me." And I didn't even bother to, I'm a published author too, and this and that. I was just like, "Who's that?" "That's me." April, don't you know me? So that was kind of funny.
The cow dancer.
Yeah, I know now.
There was a really cute moment
dancer.
when she had her horse mask on, but she was standing up, and she ran into someone who was wearing a unicorn mask, and the horse and the unicorn are walking to it to see each other. It was really cute.
I had fun with the horse head mask yesterday. I was hanging out with my friend for kind of a birthday trip, and we were going around Chattanooga doing stuff, and he just kept filming little videos of doing things with me in the background as just like this creepy horse stalker girl. That was great. I had someone at the mall want to take a picture with the horse head. Just whip it out of my purse and suddenly become a horse.
I'm okay with this.
Now what I'm wondering is, I'm picturing you now at Cow Day at Chick-fil-A.
In 2 days.
Suddenly pulling out your horse mask and revealing that you're really a horse in disguise.
Oh, I should do that. I'll try and get a video. Post it on my Facebook. I've got a lot of followers. Everyone go follow and watch me freak everyone out at Chick-fil-A with a horse head mask. A.M. Freeman, that's me.
I know a few myths where the horses were man-eaters or meat-eaters or something, and usually like Hercules or Theseus or somebody had to tame them.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did you tame them? Oh, I fed them Chick-fil-A. It's quite easy. I want to get myself...
the spite makes it taste better.
Sometime when I have to actually make an author bio picture, I'm going to get myself a wolf mask. Just go for that. Just, sit there, stand there.
When I was young and I went to conventions, I had a costume I always wore, and I always went in the same costume. It was black and white. It was kind of cool. And when I became a professional, when I became I had an actual book ready, and I wanted to, what is happening to this? And I wanted to publish it. I said, okay, I'm going to go in professional clothes, and I'll dress up when I actually become a published author. But by the time I became a published author, it's been so long, I didn't even fit my old costume anymore. I've never gone back to, but I had wanted so much.
Do you still have it?
To the point. I probably do. It was black and white rock climbing pants, but they were like black on one side, white on the other, and then reversed. So they looked like jester pants.
Oh, cool.
And I had a puffy kind of Renaissance blouse with a black vest, and I did my face half black and half white to all opposite pants. So I looked like a Harlequin, and it looked great at the time. But I think if I was going to do a costume now, I'd probably do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But
this reminds me of
kind of sad that I got to the point where I could, because I thought at the time it'd be really cool to be the one professional up there who was actually in costume, because a lot of times the professionals are not in costume. But then by the time I actually got there, I was like too poor and too lazy and Actually,
Aw.
one of these days,
That
maybe.
reminds me of Dorothy Grant. She got a medal, and later I asked her what her medal was for. I think it was like an honorable mention, and she said she got it because of her costume. It was like a period correct. I forget.
Yeah, she had a really nice
It
costume.
was really cool, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, and what was her comment? It was something like, oh yeah, apparently they mistook like this cool costume as like, oh, you put a lot of effort into that, rather than just where else am I going to be able to wear this nerdy epic costume?
Yeah, and she looked really. I know. I remember noticing how really good her costume
It was. I loved it. I just love her comment of like, well, where else am I gonna wear this? I'm like, I so relate. I just picked out all my cutest dresses and wore those all weekend.
Yeah, you look
And cow suits, that too.
adorable.
I need to get myself a suit of armor, then wield a keyblade.
Yeah,
That's
there you go.
Yeah,
there
we
we
had
go.
Cookie Monster again too. Cookie Monster made
Cookie
an
Monster
appearance.
was there in his military uniform, which Larry Curious version of Cookie Monster.
Yeah, the big C.
Impersoned by Pierce Oka, which was really funny. And it was actually the first convention I've ever just worn like regular clothes. Usually I dress up, and I think I dressed up like one day, but I don't know. I got there late, so I walked in. I'm like, okay, I'm in a t-shirt, and Jason gave us these t-shirts. So we had all these like Superversive and Happy Frog t-shirts, and I'm like, but this is the one time I get to dress up when I'm not.
I know. I meant to wear the t-shirts. I'm really sorry, Jason. I don't think I ever wore the t-shirt because I was gonna wear it as a cape. No, I was gonna make Pierce wear it, but then I forgot to make him wear it. But I wore it yesterday, so and I felt fabulous in it. So does that count?
Well,
You're
just
breaking his upside down hard.
bring it to
The poor upside down man.
you bring it to DragonCon and you know,
Oh yeah, I will.
drop by DragonCon and
I just need I need a hat or something, just a hat with the logo on it and the little bar thing. Though I can't figure out how to get the bar thing to scan. I had a friend try it yesterday. She couldn't figure out how to do it.
Somebody said they got it to work.
So we
I don't
have
know.
we
you
have
have
a
more
punt
comments?
here. Yep. Steer clear of Enlightenment philosophers. You wouldn't want to put Descartes before the horse. I'm not going to say who that was. I think they would rather be forgotten.
That's pretty great. So let's I guess we've covered most of what this past LibertyCon was like. Ben, do you have any expectations or things you're looking forward to LibertyCon 32?
I have absolutely none but a good time. I live in St. Louis, which is right across a hop, step, and a jump from St. Louis. I'm sorry, from Chattanooga.
Okay.
And I'm more than willing. Don't worry about it. Time and space are fickle things at the best of days.
Real quick. I actually realized when I got home, because I'm only an hour from Chattanooga, that another author that was in, I believe, who was it? J.D. Bethwick? I think I'm saying that wrong. He's actually like 11 miles from my house. He lives like 11 miles down the road from my house. And I got back from the con, and we messaged each other and realized that we were close by.
I had said to him that he must be close to you, and he didn't really know what I was talking about. He wrote me later. He's like, "Yeah, you were right."
Yeah. It's funny. There's a writing group in Calhoun, and I've been to it once or twice, and I let him know, and he was like, oh, I didn't realize that. But then talking about it, and he was like, this kind of seems more like literary fiction and romance. I'm like, yeah, they don't really have a sci-fi group or people in them much. So I'm like, if both of us went, we might be able to kind of build. But since I'm leaving, I'm like, I don't know. You could try, but I don't know how far he'll get. Just because it's not the same. I don't know. Science fiction and fantasy, which is like all I ever do, is a bit different than the more literary or regular kind of romance stuff. So it's hard for them to critique it because they aren't used to that style.
I'm trying to figure out stories I can write that are sci-fi and fantasy, but also of the vaguely literary smell of that
Yeah.
sulfur. And it's basically me.
You still have the elements of sci-fi fantasy. Like
Yeah.
theirs is more just regular, like everyday sort of settings. Like I could
Right.
probably do a literary thing, sci-fi elements, or vice versa, but it would be hard to do. I guess I could, but it's a different like or I that I think it would be harder for people that just write more normal everyday settings with stuff in it to transfer it into spaceships and galaxies and magic. Like it's a little bit more of a jump.
I found out one other cool thing at Libertycon, and that was that if we get our books up on Ingram and we put them in the returnable version.
I think you're breaking up.
I'm hearing you just fine.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I won't go into the details, but I found out there's a way of putting our books up on Ingram that makes it so that bookstore type guys, including guys who sell at cons, can get them. So I'm hoping that I'm gonna, be able to, or Jason and I will be able to figure out how maybe we could, connect with some of the people who sell books at some of the cons that we have people going to, and get our books out there. It's really nice when you have your books and they're being actually sold by the booksellers at the cons, because it's nice for the dealers and it's nice for you to not have to do it yourself. It doesn't mean you can't have a table for an hour or something, but it's really nice if it doesn't have to be all that time. So that's for the future. Hopefully we'll develop that.
That'd be great. Network of booksellers roaming around.
Yeah.
City that so little happens in Missouri.
All right. It looks like it's like 4 o'clock. I think we went through a whole hour.
Yep.
So, since I know April has to go to await the baby and all that, maybe we should bow out. But thank you both. And LibertyCon was really fun, and I recommend it to. I guess it's kind of mean to be saying this to all these people who can't go buy the tickets, but they can know. Well, but it could inspire people to make, because we're talking, Liberty West, LibertyCon West, LibertyCon Down Under for Jason, etc.
Oh yeah.
So. All right, guys. Take care.
All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys will join me. Wait, out of curiosity, what's the next Superversive release? Is Jake of the Dynamo finally coming out yet?
Jake of the Dynamo has been held up because the artist's boss collapsed at work, and he went from like an ordinary work day to like a 12 to 14 hour work day. So we've seen some concept sketches of the cover art, but the cover art's not actually done yet. The book is ready the moment the cover art is done to go forward. So I'm hoping it'll be soon. I mean, we it's been a little over a month and a half since we wanted to get it out. We're eager to get it out. So I'm hoping it'll be soon, and I recommend it to everyone. It is hilarious. It's really funny and fun.
What's the concept of it?
It's a world that has like a Japanese magical girl set up. There's just everybody on Earth now lives in this one city, and teenage girls develop these magic powers. Not all of them, but the main character is a boy who doesn't have magic powers in the midst of all these girls with magic powers. And it's like a superhero magic girl story, but it's really funny as the poor Jake the Dynamo is one of the magic girls, and poor Jake tries to keep up with this girl, the Dynamo, and keep her from getting hurt and figure out what's going on while he himself has no powers at all. And it's just, there's a scene where they're being attacked by a zombie and they're having an argument about brains. I was laughing so hard I could hardly breathe.
I love it.
It's really funny. So I really recommend it, and I'm excited about it coming out, but we just have to wait, as soon as, Lee's able to get the cover together, it'll be out.
Excellent.
I think there's a sequel to, what was it? It's called The Bone God.
We have a sequel to Broken Man coming out, which will be fun, and that's a kind of it's an Irish story. It's kind of a mix of history and magic done in a really nice way, and there's a couple more main characters, but the main character is a young boy who's trying to serve. He's the only free member of a slave race in the area where he is, and he's trying to make his way through what's going on, and it's really cool. And that same author has a book called Pure Poison coming out, which is a book that the first book of his I read, that I'm really excited about. And that one's about a girl from the 50s who's been dead for 50 years who gets out of Hades back into the modern world. And she's trying to figure out like what's going on and what's happened to her family and stuff. And that one's really cool too. That one's kind of like a Southern Magic Manly Wade Wellman feel to it. Which I think is neat. So that's some of the stuff that we have coming up.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I think my own book, Tears of Elfland, is one editing pass and a cover away from publishing as well. We've got a lot of things on the docket, and that means that there'll be more things to carry at the next con.
And Jupiter, Jupiter is the next one in the docket, and again, that's waiting for the artist. But once the artist is able to get back to
normalcy,
once his life is back to normal, we'll have more planetary anthologies coming out.
Because he has fantastic covers, and
he really does, and we want to keep that look.
It does really well for the planetary stuff because it gives you an idea of what was happening.
And I think that similar look between them is great. We just need to give them a chance.
The little orange spaceman is so cool.
Yeah, the little astronaut who appears in all of them is really cool. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we have coming out.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I hope you guys will join me in future live streams and have a wonderful rest of your week.
I look forward to it.
Well.
Have a happy Sunday and a good cow day.
I hope your friend has a happy Sunday.
Yeah.
Have a great evening. All right.